Hello, good morning, and what's good, you beautiful people of Atlanta's Westside. Welcome to the 36th Virtual Transform Westside Summit. My name is Benjamin Earley.
And my name is Ebony Ford. I want to add my welcome as well. And I always mention this 36th.
36, yes.
We in there, we still here, and we bring you all the information that you need about the West Side, even during this pandemic.
Absolutely. We've got a great show planned for the folks this morning. We're going to be hearing all about Fifth Third Bank's transformational investment happening on the West Side. We're going to be hearing from their president and CEO, as well as the Grove Park Foundation, and our very own Westside Future Fund president and CEO, John Ahmann. I'll be joining us a little bit later.
Absolutely.
Ebony, why don't you give us a teaser about the devotion?
Absolutely. That's going to be an awesome panel. And so we do have Reverend Angela Johnson, who is the associate pastor at Central United Methodist Church, located on MLK Jr. Drive, and I'm very much so looking forward to that devotion that we have. I would also like to bring your attention to our bulletin, which we do have issued for every single summit. You can find this on our website, westsidefuturefund.org, and go ahead and get that PDF so you can kind of find out more information about the West Side and find out more about Westside Future Fund. And what we're doing here at Westside Future Fund every day is we're out there in the community trying to build a community that Dr. King would be proud to call home. And we do that by, we have our awesome team of our directors, our board of directors, 2021, there it is there. There's a slide, beautiful faces. And these people are all, they do not get paid for their work. It's all volunteer. And so we really do appreciate their work. We also have our team at Westside Future Fund, our direct team. There's a slide there. And we're very appreciative of their work as well. And a couple of them are here actually helping out with the summit today. So we definitely appreciate their work.
That being said, we want to stay connected with you. We are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Be sure to like and subscribe to all of our channels. We often share, we always share valuable information here at the Transform Westside Summits.
Absolutely.
And the best way that we can help people to actually put this information to use is to first make sure that they have the information to begin with. And that starts with your help as well, sharing online and keeping people, updated as far as what's happening on the West Side with the transformational investments and the transformational, undertakings that we have within the community. And Ebony, I know we got some gift cards that we want to give away this morning.
Yes, we certainly do. We definitely want you to go to our website again, westsidefuturefund.org. On the homepage, click on Event Spotlight, RSVP by 8:15. We are giving away 2 gift cards today. Home Depot Foundation has invested millions of dollars, multi-millions of dollars on the West Side and helping to revitalize the West Side and further the legacy that we're creating on their West Side. And they're also giving a gift card away today as well. They're always giving. And we're also giving a gift card away from Goodwill of North Georgia. They put people to work. I think it's 65,000 people they put to work. I believe it is, and that number is growing every single day. They're also building a new location on Metropolitan Parkway, which should be opening pretty soon. So we're very much so looking forward to that. And they're also giving a gift card away today as well. So please go to our website and enter by 8:15 into the drawing for the gift cards.
All right, that being said, we're going to get into our devotion this morning. We've got Reverend Angela Johnson, Associate Pastor of Central United Methodist Church, going to be offering this morning's devotion. Pastor Angie received her Master of Divinity from Candler School of Theology at Emory University and her Bachelor of Arts degree in English from Spelman College. She's originally from New York City, but she's resided in Atlanta for over 30 years. And as we get into her devotion, here's our devotional statement. It has become our tradition to begin our meetings with a positive inspirational message from a member of our community, recognizing that many in our community are driven by their spiritual faith to participate in the West Side revitalization effort. The time at the beginning of our meetings is an opportunity to share various inspirational reflections. While the speakers may articulate their personal faith, is meant to be inclusive, inspiring, and meaningful, with the story of Nehemiah as our guide. Enjoy.
I don't know why.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Angie Johnson at Central United Methodist Church. I serve as the associate pastor here, and we are the church at the heart of the city with the city at heart. I'm so excited to partner with you on today because this church is in the community that you are working to revitalize and to nourish and to love. I'm also excited that your spiritual grounding is the book of Nehemiah, because Nehemiah was a regular guy who saw his city in ruins and decided that something needed to be done. And so he reached out to God and he galvanized the people and he began the work. The interesting thing for me, though, about Nehemiah is not just all of this stuff that he did, including giving his own money to the cause, but how he responded to the haters, to the naysayers. And so what I want to talk to you about really briefly is perseverance. This word says that the leaders came around him, all the leaders that were around him were angry at the work that they were doing. Can you imagine people being angry about wanting to rebuild the city of Atlanta, wanting to rebuild this area? There's some people who are angry about that. They would rather put businesses instead of families in this area, right? But just like Nehemiah, I'm going to encourage you to gather together, pray to your Creator, and keep pushing forward. The haters are going to hate. The naysayers are going to say the things that you don't want to hear. Let that fuel you to continue to push forward and do the work that you are called to do in this city at this time for this community. I'm so grateful for all the work that you all are doing. I look forward to partnering with you further so that we can see how this community can prosper and flourish.
What an awesome message. Thank you so much. Pastor Angie, as she is affectionately known as. I like when she's the haters, the naysayers. How could somebody hate or have something bad to say about us wanting to build up this great city of Atlanta that we all call home? So thank you so much for that message, Pastor Angie. I definitely appreciate that. And for anyone who does want to in the future, do the message, the devotional message, please reach out to Westside Future Fund or put it on our social media channels, and just reach out to us and let us know that you'd be interested in doing that at some point in the future. Thank you.
Absolutely. And now it's time for our social check-in. This would normally be the time, prior to COVID, where we would pass the mic around, the crowd here at the gathering spot, and we would have everybody to just introduce themselves, and state whatever affiliations they have to the Westside. And it was a great opportunity for networking as well as building other types of relationships. So the virtual version of that is we want you to just give us a comment, giving your morning's greeting on this morning, on this beautiful Friday, and just drop, a comment in the comment section saying, hello, good morning, you're happy to be here, how you feeling? Just let us know what you're looking forward to hearing this morning, and we're happy to engage with you. We'll stay engaged with you, throughout the week, throughout the downtime in between summits, but make sure that you please, again, share this information, because the only way that we can put it to use is if more people have it. And that being said, I want to now get into our panelists. We're going to start bringing up our panelists. We are honored today to be able to speak to a number of organizations that are, investing a lot of time, money, and energy in the revitalization happening on the West Side. The first of which I'm going to introduce the president and CEO of Fifth Third Bank, Mr. Randy Koporc. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And as we come up, I'm just going to have you sit at the end here as we do it. We're going to have Mr. Gavin McGuire. He is Executive Director of Grove Park Foundation, another organization that's doing tremendous work in creating equity for residents of Atlanta's West Side. And finally, we've got a familiar face here. We've got President and CEO of Westside Future Fund, Mr. John Ahmann himself. Thank you so much for joining us. Gentlemen, it's a beautiful morning. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So I want to start this morning's conversation. Let's start with you, Mr. Randy. So just tell us, give us a brief introduction about Fifth Third Bank, what you all are about, and your mission, vision, and values.
I'm Koporc. I serve as president and CEO of Fifth Third Bank here in Georgia. We're roughly the 8th largest financial institution in the country. I've been in the Atlanta area going back, originally planted the flag back in 2007. And what we really stand for is we talk often about trying to be a Fifth Third better, and really that resonates in our communities. And it's how do we have impact? It's core to what we do as a financial institution. I've always believed that if you build your community, you build your bank, and we take that approach. And so getting active in our communities and having a meaningful impact is core to what we do.
And speaking of Fifth Third Bank, I want to go ahead and show a quick video just further introducing their company and the efforts that they put into creating an equitable city for all Atlantans.
Standing strong for our customers, employees, and communities is at the heart of what we do every day. Whether it's helping someone achieve their financial goals, investing in a neighborhood's growth, or using the power of diversity, we're committed to being a Fifth Third better for you.
right, next up we got Mr. Gavin McGuire, Executive Director of the Grove Park Foundation. Mr. McGuire, if you would, just tell us about the important work that you do leading the Grove Park Foundation, what your organization is about, and the why for the organization.
Thank you for having me once again. Just excited. I'm new to my role and just been inspired by the Grove Park community. You know, we're working to build a thriving neighborhood. You know, someone once told me that great cities are built with great neighborhoods. And I think, you know, Grove Park is a vital part of Atlanta. And so our work is really important to make sure that our residents thrive. You know, we're addressing the issue of economic mobility, but really getting to the root cause, you know, looking at education, looking at financial literacy support, looking at housing, not only for rentals, home ownership, but keeping our legacy residents within their homes. You know, we have so many great people who have led the city of Atlanta, who have been beacons across the world. And, you know, that's all coming out of that Grove Park community. So our work also is, you know, making it a destination. You know, we focus on health and wellness, we focus on the arts. So it's a comprehensive approach to empower and engage our residents in a great way. And what I'm proud of is just the collaborative nature and inclusive design of the work. You know, faith-based community leans in, you know, our nonprofit partners. We have an amazing board of directors who serve, but, you know, and an amazing staff team. So, you know, just doing our best to make sure that Grove Park continues to thrive.
That's awesome. So I'm going to switch up the run of show here just a bit and go ahead and show the video from Grove Park Foundation, also furthering the explanation as to what this organization is contributing to not just the Westside, but all of Atlanta through its connections to, you know, each and every other part of the city. So let's go ahead and roll that.
Been here since I was 6 years old.
Paradise moved 1965, so we've been here over 50 years now.
We've been here about 2 or 3 years, right? So took a drive around and checked out the area, and we loved the area.
My jaw went under. I didn't know what I was gonna do. You know, I'm trying, you know, real hard. Cause they were gonna sell my house, courtroom steps.
Any up and coming or thriving neighborhood has the risk of being ruined by gentrification.
I do keep in contact with the Grove Park Foundation. You know, it's just the fact that you can go to somebody and tell them the things that, whatever you need done at your home, and they can put you in contact with those people. I've never been afraid to call, because they have always, Grove Park Foundation has always been there to help.
So the main resource is small business capital. It is going to help me expand my business to the level that I know that it deserves to be at. And for my family, I want to be able to fix things when I want to fix them and make changes when I want to make them, and it's going to help us do that.
Since I have been a part of the financial literacy things, what it does is it teaches you how to become credit worthy so you can buy your house. It teaches you how to rebuild your credit.
They also work with us to create a budget and have some, you know, action steps to get our credit in line.
One thing I want my kids to walk away with is knowing that every human being is valuable and they have the ability to add value to whatever environment they find themselves in.
I want them to have some sort of home ownership or business ownership, at a younger age, younger than us, already thinking about business or owning a home.
But the revitalization is a good thing, like redoing the movie theater, and redoing the school and the health center.
And I tell you, I'm excited about more growth, because that means with things moving in, that means we'll make grocery stores, shops, different little restaurants, drugstores, banks, and things like that. I'm excited about that. And I'm telling you the truth, I pray every day that the Lord let me be here to see the things that are going to happen in this Grove Park next, because it's going to be something else. You hear me, hon? It's going to be something else. And I just can't wait. I really can't.
That was beautiful. And I think one of the biggest takeaways from that is, as the young lady said at the end, you know, she's really expressing a feeling of hope. And, you know, a lot of people in these communities, especially on the West Side, you know, anybody that is a frequent viewer of the summits knows that I'm a legacy West Side resident myself. And so there's a lot of times, there's a lot of, you know, dismay and despair that can, you know, happen within these communities because people see the changes that are happening around the city and they see them getting closer to home, and they don't always see a place for themselves within that change. And so I think it's really important to highlight the organizations such as these who are helping to not just create a place for people, but to show them that there's always been a place for you and that we're just expanding this place for you as our city continues to change. And I want to introduce our final guest now, Mr. John Ahmann, President and CEO of Westside Future Fund. Mr. John, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody what Westside Future Fund is all about?
Yeah, thank you. Also, let me thank Gavin for being here so quickly after he started at the Grove Park Foundation. Been at it 5 weeks, so thank you for joining us, and Randy from Fifth Third Bank. So, the Westside Future Fund, place-based initiative focused on historic neighborhoods on the West Side. We have as our kind of a vision statement, how do you develop a community Dr. King we'd be proud to call home. A lot of folks think because we have the name fund in it, we're a foundation. We are not. We go out and raise money from folks like Randy. And there's a lot of different organizations doing different aspects of the work to deliver neighborhoods that are holistic and provide economic opportunity. And so we have a couple areas that we raise funds and deliver programs, and we grew into those areas after our first couple years of work, really listening from the community about what they wanted and what was needed, what were the gaps. And a key area that we focus is around affordable housing, because in our Home on the West Side program, so we raise funds, deliver affordable housing, especially around community retention with our anti-displacement tax fund, with high quality affordable rental, as well as home ownership. And we also now have a partnership with the Booker T. Washington cluster. We started with Hollis, and we went to Booker T. Washington High School, and then the rest of the cluster. And we raise funds to help improve education outcomes. But then we partner with a lot of different others that are doing work in the neighborhoods. And one of the things that I personally love to do, because I learn so much and meet so many people, is our role of kind of bringing people together and talking about the issues on the West Side and raising awareness of the issues like this Transform West Side Summit.
That's great. And I want to give folks, an extended introduction to Westside Future Fund. We also have a Westside Future Fund video ready to roll to show you a bit more about the Home on the West Side program.
So Home on the West Side is an exciting initiative from the Westside Future Fund in which they assist and help families find stable housing in beautifully renovated spaces so that our families have great places to return to and really get that stability that we're hoping that we can have on the west side of Atlanta.
Welcome home. Don't start crying now.
You gonna make me cry. I know. Okay. The apartment is so nice. Like, everything is beautiful. Before we moved here, we stayed with my mother, and things were cramped. But I was thankful that we had a roof over our head and that my children and I weren't living on the streets or anything like that. I know some days I felt defeated and I felt like I'm sorry. Some days I felt defeated, and I just thank God for giving myself and my children somewhere to live.
I was married, and 7 years ago he passed away. We ended up in a shelter. So you have to think, like, it's been 7 years, and they just been one big blur of moving around and not being settled, comfortable. Just trying to swim, try not to drown.
I'm so happy. Whew. I'm so sorry. I'm happy because my kids have what they need, their own space. They don't have to worry about, oh, we have to sleep on the floor or we have to, cramp up in the room. Like, everybody has their own bed, own space.
Walking in to the apartment was like,
I was like, is that my balcony?
Like, I could exhale. Like, I've been holding my breath for so long now. It's like, I can't, that relief.
Westside is the Westside.
You know what we're really proud of, and I'm really proud of our team at Home on the Westside, is that we develop high quality housing. But a lot of the folks here, what people don't appreciate, can be our low wage workers. But low wage doesn't mean low worth. And we want residents that are in our housing to feel special, to feel loved upon. To me, one of the most powerful antidotes when you're coming from underserved neighborhoods, it can be very easy to lose hope. And by doing high quality housing is saying there's a lot of people that hope for you and hope you have a better destiny, and saying to that resident that we care about you.
That was amazing. And, just watching those, I was reflecting on my own, family history. And coming from a household, a single mother of 4, my mom would tell us about how tough it was, honestly, to just be the superhero parent that she was. And, when I was about 2 years old, my parents got divorced, and my mom she had to figure some stuff out. And she made it clear that having a place to go home to, my grandmother had built the house on the west side. She was one of the first people to integrate the Peyton Forest area. But to have a home to go to where she could feel safe, feel stable, and know that her children were gonna have opportunities and be able to stay away from a lot of the, negative stuff and negative influences that can often impact the lives of young people when they are, dealing with issues such as poverty and whatnot in the different environments that pushes people into. So seeing the impact of how programs like Home on the West Side and what Grove Park Foundation are doing is, it really touches home for me, because it's a lot of people who need a safe place to come home to. And there's a great number of people who feel that even though they're from the West Side, that they don't necessarily have a place that they can call home. They don't feel as if, these new developments that are happening are developments that are keeping them in mind. And so, Randy, I want to start with you as far as why it was important for Fifth Third Bank to get involved in the revitalization efforts happening on the West Side, and why you chose these specific organizations to invest in.
Yeah, it was interesting, John. I had a chance I went to a Rotary session, just recently joined Rotary. John came and spoke about what was going on the West Side. I was really moved by that, and I also had a chance to tour the neighborhoods through my Leadership Atlanta experience, and I just felt really called to try to figure out how can we at Fifth Third get more involved in what's going on there. Our company 3 years ago had made a decision on doing some place-based work in Detroit. And based on that work, we really saw impact. And we said, well, how do we take this model more broadly? And we we made it a $180 million investment across 9 neighborhoods. And without a doubt, I mean, the work at Westside, the work at Grove Park was easy to align. Their teams, a big part of what's special about this city is the work that folks like John and Gavin do in their organizations, because that's what makes this a special place. And because they were so organized in their approach to it, we really wanted to get behind these organizations to help support their work, their mission. This isn't Fifth Third's work. We mean to be a catalyst for the great work that the neighborhoods want for their neighborhoods. But homeownership matters, in historic neighborhoods matter. And a big part of what we do is how do we provide strengthening these neighborhoods through creating greater financial literacy, home ownership, advancing small businesses. And I can't think of a better place to do it than the west side of Atlanta. And that's why I'm proud that these neighborhoods were selected as only 9 neighborhoods in our company initially that we're going to make those kinds of investments in, and really proud of it.
And Gavin, why don't you talk a bit about what it means, the investment from Fifth Third Bank, what it means for the organization, what it means for the Grove Park community and the residents that live there?
The investment is huge. As Randy said, it's a catalyst. And when we do this work, we all talk about hope. And, the gift actually puts hope as a verb and actualize it. When you looked at that video is like a microcosm of my day when I'm meeting with the community. People have visions, people have dreams, people want to start businesses, people want to own their own homes. That's the American dream. But being able to have access to capital, with that investment, access to education, access to empowerment, that's huge. And it's in your neighborhood. So I think, when you talk about building generational wealth, you talk about keeping people in their homes. And I mean, everybody's, in that neighborhood, just are thinking about their families, their kids, their legacy. And this gift from Fifth Third is a huge boost to that. So now, when that kid at the school that's across the street from my office, walks in that school and, he or she's at a career day and they're talking about what they want to be, what they want to do, or, they're looking at their home and being able to, look across to say, I'll be in this home and I'll be in this community and I'll be thriving in this community. That's part of the legacy of the gift that we're receiving from Fifth Third Bank.
John, what does the investment from Fifth Third Bank mean to Westside Future Fund and the historic Westside?
Means, I'm going to say 2 things. One, it means we can deliver more high quality product that's affordable. Because without the philanthropy that allows, to be able to charge affordable rents, so it's an enabler of, what we saw in the video, that kind of a product. And we have, literally hundreds of people that have qualified for home on the west side that want the rental, but we're still developing product. And we can't develop that product affordably without philanthropy. So that's the one. And the 2, and this is what I appreciate, I've learned about fundraising, folks that give typically like to be in a parade, meaning they don't want to be doing this by themselves. And Fifth Third being such a prominent institution, a prominent bank, for them to give is a big signal. So the mere fact that they give signals to others that, hey, that's a good place to give, we want to be a part of that too.
And I want to mention, these neighborhoods on the west side and historic west side are largely communities of color, largely African-American communities. And the reason why this work, one of the reasons why this work is so important is, we know the legacy of housing discrimination in America. We know things like the GI Bill and not accounting for, people of color and those types of legislation, people of color being literally redlined and blackballed by banks when it comes to getting mortgages and down payment assistance for housing. And of course, black people being pushed into projects all throughout America at this crucial point in time where, white families were getting that down payment assistance, where they were getting these opportunities for home ownership and moving to the suburbs and, living the American dream. Black people didn't get that, so organizations like Westside Future Fund and Grove Park Foundation, what they're doing is so important because it's helping to mitigate some of those effects. Of course, no one organization can make up for 400 years of oppression, right? But each step that we take every day, it matters. And these organizations are having an impact in the lives of residents, like you just saw, people who, never saw themselves as being able to own a home or owning homes. People who have been, moving from place to place, just trying to find balance over the last 10 years, like you saw in Westside Future Fund's video. These folks are now having a place to call home. But one of the things that John just said that I want to really point out, it's not just a home, it's a high quality home. Because I think a lot of the time, most of the time, when we talk about affordable housing, historically, what that has generally meant for people actually living in those conditions is a rundown place. You think, I can just pay, $100, $200, $300 a month to live here. Well, it's a crap hole, basically. And if you visit some of these places, even still, unfortunately, there are places still within our city that are run down. And people are living in these conditions, and you walk in and you see, the state of their home, and you wonder how they manage day to day. And so having organizations like these to create not just affordable housing, but truly equitable housing. It's affordable, it's safe, it's beautiful. Like the 395 James P. Brawley is probably one of the most beautiful multifamilies in the city. And so these folks have these places to call home, but they also can have dignity and pride in the place that they stay, knowing that just because I have assistance with housing, that doesn't mean that I have to lack dignity in where I stay. So I want to start with you, Gavin, and just talk a bit about how making sure that people can take pride in their homes. Why is that important? Because, as we know, it affects, your housing affects more than just where you stay. It affects every other aspect of your life. So just talk about that a bit.
Yeah, I think the home is a metaphor for a lot of things. I mean, home is where the family gathers. Home is that sanctuary where kids are raised, where, you get that peace. Home also is a building block for wealth and legacy, the things that you can do with that home. And as you look at certain measures of success, people who own their home, you have that stability. Then you can, talk about, your workforce readiness in your career. You can talk about home. You can talk about entrepreneurship. You can talk about business. But once again, once that home is stabilized, then it's a microcosm. Then the community is stabilized. And once people are secure, then they can serve their community. They can reach their dreams, and they can go for their aspirations. So home is just like that central place of peace. So that's why it's really important to make sure that people are in homes and stabilized. And I love the word that you said, though, and with the support, with dignity and with empowerment, that it's not charity, but it's empowerment.
Yeah. And Randy, I want you to pick up on that point about empowerment. Why is it so important for organizations like Fifth Third Bank to have a hand in this type of transformation? We know that, philanthropy, it feels good, it looks good, but there's a deeper cause for your organization. And just talk about how seeing these stories and these lives being transformed, how that reflects and how that impacts your organization and the people who work there.
Yeah, I think it's core what we do, and it's a big part of why folks get in this business, right? To really help their communities thrive. Real quick to go back to the work that John and Gavin are doing on the quality of product that's being put together. It's very thoughtful. That's a big part of why when we looked at neighborhoods around the country, the work that they're doing and their organizations are doing are very specific to creating thriving neighborhoods. And so just like any investor, you want to make sure that you're kind of aligning yourselves with organizations that really are taking the right approach with the residents' involvement to the kind of communities they want to build. So kudos to the two of you for the work you're doing. But financial empowerment is a big part of obviously what we do. We want people to understand the mechanisms of which they can have in order to better their lives and the lives of their children and the betterment of their community. And that starts with core financial literacy, understanding how it works, how that then transitions into job security, home ownership, wealth, savings for life's events. And that's a big part of why if you have thriving neighborhoods, they can be really strong catalysts for what happens not only in the neighborhood, but throughout the greater city of Atlanta.
And John, picking up on his point, you can elaborate on what he just said, but also I want you to speak to, again, how housing isn't just housing. Housing is nutrition, housing is healthcare, housing is childcare, housing is, when you can have affordable housing and housing that's dependable and where you can have peace of mind, how that impacts every other area of your life. And you're seeing that with tenants of Home on the Westside and new homeowners with Home on the Westside. So just talk a bit about that impact as far as wanting to have a holistic approach in impacting folks' lives.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate all that you said, and kind of add to that, because the things that a high-quality home provides, the stability, safety, literally, not negative health consequences in terms of, but another big part, because when appreciate you sharing about your own early life, and you saw in the videos, a lot of folks when they're trying to maximize their dollar, pack into places, right? And there's a lot of stress around that. And what's very true and very well documented is that in high poverty neighborhoods, the overwhelming folks who grow up in those neighborhoods are traumatized. And a lot of that trauma experience grows out of their poor housing experience. And the things that when you're traumatized, the kind of negative consequences that can happen for the rest of your life because you're kind of traumatized are significant. And so that, and I think I didn't really appreciate that, because like a lot of things, you kind of know stuff in your head, but then you experience them and they get into your heart. And so especially living on the West Side, it's like how foundational that housing is to everything else. It's like none of it really works without it. So.
Yeah, and Gavin, just furthering on the topic of holistic approach, how are you seeing the impact of Grove Park Foundation in affecting the surrounding area, and not just surrounding area, but the people directly involved in your organization, the people directly benefiting? How is it affecting not just their housing, but their entire well-being?
Yeah, when you look at the housing piece, as John mentioned, that's the safety, that's the stability. And so, working to, people have anxiety, as you mentioned earlier, with change and seeing, new things being built. And I think we bring that calm, where people know that they have a place and an advocate and someone that's listening and that's working side by side with them. We work diligently to make sure not only from our foundation, but how do we build all those other nonprofits and great people who are doing great work to support the residents. So with our model, we have a comprehensive approach. So as you mentioned, not just looking at housing, but how do we look at entrepreneurship? How do we look at health? How do we look at education? How do we look at just those things that build quality of life? Looking to in that art space and revitalize things to make sure that it's not only housing and businesses, but it's a neighborhood you could be proud of with the park and with things that you can have entertainment with for your family. So, I think that we're just that place that we're listening, we're also empowering, but we're also, building a coalition of support to make sure that the work that we do is sustained over time and not just a one-hit wonder.
Not just a one-hit wonder. Hey, Randy, we know that, like you said earlier, financial empowerment is critical, and building generational wealth, as we've stated, generally begins with home ownership, begins with affordable housing. What other areas is Fifth Third Bank helping to improve, not just on the West Side, but throughout the city of Atlanta? We've got, the housing, we've got the affordability, but what about entrepreneurship, education, these other areas? What investments have you guys made in those areas?
Yeah, so we are big supporters of anywhere we can help bring our financial literacy model into the school systems. We're in a number of schools where we're teaching elementary school up through high school on basic financial principles. So we have a Young Bankers Club program that we can bring to schools to help students in that regard. We support small business capital, so organizations like Access to Capital is another one where we provide support. as well as down payment assistance work that we do as well, and in support of those efforts. But we really look at holistically kind of the financial well-being, the health well-being, and the stability, financial stability well-being, and try to align our giving and our time and treasure really around those types of organizations. And so when we look at organizations like Grove Park and Westside, where they're really taking a more holistic approach, it's not just about brick and mortar, but it's also about programmatic needs and other partners. That's the beautiful thing about this city of Atlanta. People really want to do better. They want neighborhoods to thrive. They want the city to be a great city. So to see a lot of organizations, and there's a lot of collaboration that happens here, and it's all well-spirited, and so we try to support those organizations who really can affect across multiple disciplines, and that's where our time and treasure goes.
And you mentioned the word collaboration. John and Gavin, and John, we'll start with you, but talk a bit about why partnerships are important. We know that your organizations, could not possibly do all that you do on your own. So just talk about why it's key to have the support of organizations like Fifth Third Bank and any key partnership that your organizations have. Like, why are those partnerships crucial? And just speak to how, continuing to create an environment and a culture of working together to create prosperity for underserved communities, why that's important to each of you. John, let's start with you.
Well, now I'll go back to our devotional statement, because our devotion always draws out of the lessons of Nehemiah, who went back to cupbearer the king to go rebuild Jerusalem, and the first thing he did was to rebuild the wall. And guess what he couldn't do by himself, right? He couldn't rebuild the wall. He needed everyone to participate, right? And I remember when I had first started working with the Westside Future Fund, Dan Cathy, Chick-fil-A owner, he and also Rodney Bull from Chick-fil-A Foundation have been big supporters and investors, and actually the summit kind of came as something they suggested, and he called me after one of the early summits and said, John, if everyone just grabbed a brick, like if everyone can just have a brick, how much we can get done, and we'll own a brick, right? And so the partnership, then all the things that need to happen. So the partner organizations, so like, the Trust for Public Land that raised money for Koporc, or Park Pride that raised money for Katherine Johnson Memorial Park, or the new YMCA raised money from the YMCA, or the Atlanta Police Foundation raising money for the juvenile justice system, the incredible work of the Russell family doing Black entrepreneurs at Ricey, and all the different investors enabling all these things to happen. So there's no for all the might of some people that participate, there's no one person that can show up and get it all done. So the partnership is a must. And I remember once saying, it was at an event the Police Foundation was having for the at Promise Center, and it was amazing to me because the kids were dancing with the police officers. One, they were all dancing much better than I could ever hope to aspire to dance. So that was like, okay, I'm not going to even pretend I'm going to get into that. But then the other, they were all getting along. The police with and I said, right, which I think is what they wanted, but also it just so struck me, which was kind of a theme. The more the more I can get done. The more, which is a little counter to the more I work with others, the more I can get done. Because oftentimes the ego says, me, let me go do that, as opposed to it's we. So.
Yeah, and Gavin, just talk a bit about collaboration.
Collaboration is about respect. It's saying that I see you and I acknowledge your work. We're blessed to have foundations and organizations that have, big impact and big names. But it's a lot of, mom and pops that, when the lights go and the cameras go and the social media lights go away, they'll still be there. So that's telling our partners, hey, we respect you, we hear you, we see you. It's also, when we're talking about Fifth Third Bank, leveraging financial capital, partnerships also leverages other capital, social capital, human capital, and it helps us to scale. If I work in my silo, I can help, 100,000 people, but if we open the net and make it wider and bring our partners on and learn from the great lessons that they can teach us and, come together, it shows a good message to the community to say that we're partnering together and we're all working together for success, and we're not competing. And I think, that you could go farther with partnerships, and I'm, living witness of it throughout my work. And, and the success of the Grove Park Foundation has been through the many partners, from faith-based, corporate, but also those grassroots mom and pop organizations who continue to do the work, without a lot of the fanfare and a lot of the recognition.
Yeah, and you hinted at something there, and which is not just collaboration, but advocacy. And I think that's one of the biggest things besides the financial investment that Fifth Third Bank is offering is advocacy. And a lot of times, especially when it comes to wanting to have an impact in people's lives, what that requires is entering their lives in some form. And what that requires is trust. And so, and we'll start with you, Randy, but I want each of you to speak to why it's important to build that relationship with the communities, with each of your organizations, to develop that level of trust so that you can have the impacts that you're seeking to have. Randy, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, trust is foundational to every relationship, right? I think it's the core principle that makes relationships strong. And we realize, we've got to earn that trust every day. And we build that trust with community partners by doing what we say we will do and deliver. But also, entering and supporting work of a neighborhood. I mean, there's residents that you want to build the trust and level of confidence that they have in you, that you're here to really be supportive of their efforts, not yours. And that's, that's a continuous process. I believe you earn that trust with every interaction. It's never granted and given forever, but you've got to hold it sacred, and we do at Fifth Third. We value relationships, not only with our customers, but in our communities, and we will continue to do that. And that is foundational to making this type of work really special.
Gavin.
Trust is just a GPS of the work, because trust, is that internal gut check as a leader, to make sure that you're working with integrity, to making sure that you're reaching out, to making sure that you're listening and leading well. I think about a time in my career, it was we were working on a project at the organization that I work with, and the community was just saying, hey, y'all are working in a room without reaching out and trusting our voice and our feedback. And so someone gave me a quote, and it's been on the walls of a couple of organizations I work. I have to put it on my wall in my office now that I'm thinking about it. You asked this poignant question, and it said, "Don't do anything for me without me." And that's the trust, and so, that's the baseline. Relationships and work move on the speed of trust. And so, that's one of the main pillars, as I, and I work with my team and our board to do the great work that we're blessed to do, is to make sure that we have the community trust. So great question. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And John, Gavin just hinted at it, but one of Westside Future Fund's saying is, to do with the community, not to the community. So just talk a bit about that relationship again, building trust with folks in the communities.
Well, without the trust of the community, we couldn't do the work. When I started with the Westside Future Fund, a lot of the resources and the companies that are involved, they're not indigenous to the West Side. They're not known to the West Side, and it's like I often thought and would say, think about, I was in other people's living room, right? And if folks really pushed for us to leave, we wouldn't be able to stay. So, and I remember it was one of the actually, kind of gave the first report here on behalf of the Westside Future Fund. It was like, we can all say the right thing, right? Because often the experience, what I've heard residents, people say something, but that's not what they then experience in terms of people doing what they say. So we knew too, coming in, that we were going to have to earn the trust, but have to earn the trust by doing what we say, and demonstrating to people that and not that we haven't had our own, not had any intentionality, but we've made some mistakes, sure, but like a big way to gain trust was the Home on the West Side program. And to earn the trust of the community retention criteria that said, because the question was, when we were buying up a fair amount of property, people would say, well, who's going to go on all that vacant land, John? Are they going to look like you, or are they going to look like us?
Yeah.
right? Which is that's a trust question.
Right.
And the home on the west side community retention criteria, is a way. So other things to really do to earn that trust. And I love the quote you gave. Because the other way, and I really have appreciated this doing the work at Westside Future Fund, is you gotta know the people that you're,
Yeah.
And people gotta know you too to trust you. So sometimes you have to slow down to speed up.
Yeah.
And
I want to ask this next question to each of you, and we'll start with you, John, and work our way to Randy. But a lot of times, we know that being the leader of a big organization or an organization that's impacting a lot of lives, a lot of people look to you as, providing answers or whatnot. But I'm not sure we all can fully appreciate just how much it means to be in a role of leadership when learning is just as important as being able to teach. And I think one of the traits of a good leader is being able to learn and to adjust on the fly. And so, just speak about what has been arguably the biggest lesson that each of you have learned as far as doing the type of work that you're doing and wanting to have the impact that you look to have. John.
The biggest lessons we've learned?
Yeah.
Starting with me?
Starting with you.
Oh man, I wanted a little time to think.
Well, we...
No, one lesson for me, I guess, is, I'm not a patient person. Wouldn't be my strength. And so when I started the Westside Future Fund, wanting stuff like this, and it was really hard because in the early days we had a lot of kind of ideas and plans. We didn't have any product. But when we finally, were able to have housing, other things, and the other thing I learned was to be able to then tell the stories. Yeah. And so having the product. So one of the lessons is because it's made the work a lot more effective, so to speak. But being able to have product to go, and then building relationships like you and Ebony, who are now opening some are great examples. But involving the community and then having results that we can talk about. It's hard to sell people when you don't have results to point to.
Yeah. Gavin?
It's too early for these tough
I know,
questions.
it's hard.
Learned so many lessons in this work, but one of the main lessons that I learned is that it's not a right for me to be in a position. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be able to serve. And when people use that term servant leader, it's my obligation to be a servant leader. And, with all of the questions, it's almost like a crescendo to the last question you asked me. So I see what you're doing. But, which causes me to be humble, to listen, to make sure that I collaborate, to make sure that, making sure that we are true to our mission. And, it just reminds me of a saying, my mom, I'm motivated by a lot of quotes and stories. And, when I graduated from Morehouse, I thought I knew everything, and my head was like this big. And my mom said, God can use anybody, in the spirit of our devotion. She said, God can use anybody, but he chose you to do certain things. So be humble. And so I'm humble and honored, throughout my career on everything I've done, but especially in this role, how vital it is, to building people, to changing lives and building legacy. So, that's the lesson one of the many lessons I've learned.
Randy.
Yeah, this is one of those times where I wish I was sitting over there. But I could have gotten it in, but really around servant leadership, when I think about, I would probably add servant leadership with purpose. And I think what I've learned about the work that we do is being very purposeful. Where can you have the greatest impact? And I think that all starts with listening, right? Good leaders are great listeners. And I still remember sitting in that Rotary meeting, hearing John come and talk about what was going on at the West Side, and how its purpose. And then when I heard that, I could have either chosen to kind of file it away and move on and think, oh, these bigger companies will handle this. There's somebody's, but it's how do you then take that to be purposeful and getting involved? And it literally started with listening, hearing about that, and then making calls to organizations that are supporting the West Side. And I think that's probably the leadership lesson for me is just if you're listening with intent and purpose and then acting upon it, you can really make a difference. And as John mentioned, I really ask other organizations, to get involved. Grab a brick, as John said. You might think, hey, I can't compete with what these other organizations are bringing in, but every brick matters. And so any chance we can bring others to come along with us on this work would be greatly appreciated. That's another thing great leaders do too. Not only do they drive forward with their purpose, but they involve others and try to bring others along to lift everyone.
And you just answered my final question for you, so I'll toss it to Gavin and John. But that is, how can people get involved? Fifth Third Bank is obviously doing its part, trying to have a role in correcting some of the wrongs and injustices on the West Side. So Gavin, talk about how people can get involved with Grove Park Foundation, whether they are individuals, other nonprofits, or corporate partners.
Yeah, it's a lot of room at the Grove Park table for everybody to support. With what we're doing, we have a heavy lift in a lot of key areas. So if it's your time, with volunteer projects, we do a lot to, support our neighbors, from basic things, code enforcement, grass cutting, to, decorating for the holidays, to, just making the neighbor. We started walking clubs around health and doing key things there. If it's your treasures, we have a lot of people that have dreams, to own their own homes. I know how it felt for me to get that bag of keys and someone shook my hand and say, you're a homeowner. And I don't think that should be germane to just one group of people. That should be germane to all. We have a lot of people who want to start businesses, and not only an investment of money, but an investment of your brain equity to help to teach and to grow. And this leader is waving my hand and raising my hand, to any other, foundations, organizations, companies that want to, work with us and provide your expertise, roll your sleeves up in our core areas of financial literacy, housing, building businesses, health and wellness. 1566 Donnelly Hollowell Parkway. No administrative assistant. You can walk in and you can see me if I'm there.
I like it, a man of the people. And John, before you answer this, I want you to quickly talk about Westside Future Fund's PRI program as well. We mentioned Home on the West Side, but talk about the PRI program and how that's having an impact for entrepreneurs, and then, again, how people can get involved.
So thanks to some charitable contributions, we're able to do very low-cost loans. They're called PRIs, program-related investments. And we had announced an application period for Westside businesses, Westside entrepreneurs to submit. I think we're looking to do loans between $50,000 and $70,000. I think our deadline window closed, so I think we will be announcing those loans. We anticipate, this was the first round, so we anticipate doing rounds in the future. I know Grove Park has been a real leader on supporting entrepreneurship in their work. Actually, I think we're learning some from them, and then, but we're hoping to be able to continue the program next year.
Yeah. And how can folks support Westside Future Fund?
Well, I want to kind of go at a little different. So Dr. King's last home was 234 in Coretta, 234 Sunset, which is in Vine City. So he bought it in 1965, assassinated in 1968. And Bernice tells a story that they could have lived in a more affluent black neighborhood on the West Side, but he wanted to live in Vine City to make a point about slum conditions. And so that's where I wanted to live, on Sunset. And I do sometimes would invite others who want to get involved in the work. Because one thing, back to the point you made, Randy, I love your quote about God has a place for all of us, is because I go in front of the 234 and you say to yourself, if Dr. King Coretta were out on that front porch and you're wanting to say, this is kind of how I helped today, what would that be? Yeah. Like, what would you want to say? And what would your gift be? Because we all have different gifts, to Randy's point. And so I'd love for people to think about that. Because back to, we have off facilitate. So if people have ideas and ways they want to help and want to get engaged, maybe something we've never thought of, we want to invite that on in and welcome, because people are showing up with all their creativity and in their hearts to help. So, you know, we have a volunteer program. We love to have people, of course, if people want to write a check, we love that involvement, you know, but other ways people want to get engaged, we would just love to learn about it so we can see if we can help facilitate it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, gentlemen. This has been a lovely conversation. We've got some great stuff brewing up on the West Side. We hope that you folks watching at home gathered something, useful from this conversation. And we hope that you become advocates for these organizations. You know, Grove Park Foundation, they, along with Westside Future Fund, they're really doing the groundwork. We have a lot of opportunity right now with where Atlanta is in its development and its growth as a city, and with the mayoral election just being finalized this past week. Congrats to Mayor-elect Andre Dickens. But we're really at a turning point in our city. We have we really have opportunity to do things as a city that I'm not sure have really been done before. And what I mean by that is we're in a unique position because we have these types of organizations, and because we are seeing the type of development that's happening throughout the city, not just on the West Side, to the extent that it is. We're really at a point where we have a choice to make as a city. Are we going to continue to gentrify and displace people? Are we going to continue to overlook the economic injustices that have been done to people of color for generations? Or are we going to buckle down, hold hands, and grab a brick? Just grab a brick. Like, what are we going to do? And that's really what time it is in Atlanta. And for legacy residents like myself and my family, I can tell you we are sitting back and watching, what these organizations are doing, and it matters. Whether or not you've heard of XYZ and whether or not you're familiar, these folks out here actually putting in the work. They're having an impact, and I encourage you, visit their websites, visit their facilities, get to know some of the people who they have impacted and learn these stories firsthand. But as a city, we are at a point where we have to decide, what does Atlanta look like 10 years from now, 20 years from now? All of these companies that are now moving to our city, we've got Microsoft, one of the big ones, Google, but they're bringing in opportunity, they're bringing in money, they're bringing in development. We have to decide what we're gonna do to make sure that people who have been calling Atlanta home, who have been calling these communities home, can benefit from all of these changes that are happening in our city. And so I appreciate, again, Westside Future Fund, Grove Park Foundation, and Fifth Third Bank for everything that you're doing to contribute to the empowerment of Westside residents and residents throughout Atlanta in general. We appreciate you guys, and we'll have you guys exit the stage.
Right,
now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. And now I'm going to bring back up my lovely co-host, Miss Ebony Ford.
Hi.
Ebony, I know, again, we, as our guests exit the stage, but we have some gift cards that we're supposed to be giving away this morning.
Yes, we absolutely do. As promised, we have 2 gift cards to give away today. First one, of course, from Home Depot Foundation. And the winner, the very lucky winner of the Home Depot Foundation gift card is Mr. Lamarian Dabney. Mr. Dabney, I hope I said your name correctly, Mr. Lamarian Dabney. And also the Goodwill of North Georgia is also giving a gift card away today as well. And the lucky winner of that is Patricia Lee, Miss Patricia Lee. So congratulations to both of our winners.
All right,
and thank you for tuning in.
Congrats. Yeah, and again, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Again, we hope that you found some valuable information in today's summit. We're always striving to bring the latest updates with the revitalization efforts happening on the West Side to you at these summits. So please, 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 by all means, share this information. Share on all the platforms that you're watching on, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or whatever. Share the information because people need to know that they have resources that they can tap into so that they can help improve the quality of life for themselves and, the people who surround them and call themselves family.
Absolutely.
And Ebony, we know about your story and going through the Home on the West Side program.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, one thing that was really, really nice today was to hear, Benjamin, about your personal, your West Side story, because I don't know, maybe a lot of people don't realize that. We don't talk about how we came to be on the West Side. Benjamin obviously is a long-time resident, so hearing about your mother and your grandmother and your family was awesome. So me, I came to Atlanta 12 years ago. I actually bought my house in English Avenue, and little did I know when I bought that house, I didn't even know anything about the neighborhood at that point, but what I have found out about the neighborhood in the west side of Atlanta since then, obviously, it has just made an impact on my life, and it has just turned into me just immersing myself in this neighborhood, and I'm just so thankful that something, not to take it too lightly, but I mean, I was just buying a home. So for it to have amounted to all of this and meet all these wonderful people that I'm meeting, that's my West Side story, and I'm so grateful to be here and to help to bring this information to the West Side and to Atlanta as a whole. And also, we have people that are watching. My family's in Michigan, and they actually tune into the summit. So our audience is actually bigger than we think. So I'm always very surprised because I know that these summits are informational. Mm-hmm. But what's surprising to me is I always also feel inspired. Yeah. And that is just an excellent byproduct of getting this kind of information. So I'm just very grateful to be here and to share my West Side story and to get the information out to everyone.
And speaking of West Side stories, and speaking of social,
yes,
if you have a story that is related to the West Side and your experience on the West Side, share it, tag us, add us. We are happy to engage with you. Again, we'll repost it, we'll share it, we'll put it up on our website, whatever you need us to do. But we want to hear from you. We want to know, what has your experience been with, the Home on the West Side program, West Side Future Fund, with Grove Park Foundation? How have you benefited or seen other people benefit from these organizations? What are some other organizations that people need to know about? Because it's not just these two, it's plenty of organizations out there that are doing this type of work. So what are those organizations doing? Who are they? And how can people get involved? We want to hear from you. So if you have a story, if you have something that you think people need to know, share it. We're happy to repost. We're happy to share it on our networks. Absolutely. That being said, we will be back in 2 weeks for our final Transform Westside Summit of the year. And we hope that you enjoyed a happy Thanksgiving with your family and loved ones. But as we look to close out this year strong, we're hoping that the COVID numbers will continue to drop so that we can get back to in-person summits. Yes. Oh my goodness, so we can get back to in-person summits. It would be so lovely to just see a sea of happy faces in the audience again. We're looking forward to that. So you all stay tuned. We will see you again in 2 weeks. Until then, stay safe. Happy holidays.